Hello, welcome to another episode of the Live Cost Construction Experience. We've been pumping these out now. Actually, the month of April, we've had two a week there, these going out because we wanted to try and help out as much as we can, business owners, construction business owners, operators, and see if we get out as much help, as much content as we could. That is going to come slightly reduced through the next month because, to be honest with you, we've got a business behind us to run and that's going off at the moment. So we'll still continue to get out as much as we can. I'm hoping to keep it to one a week. But I've had a bit of time to look back on what sort of episodes have gone well. For those who've been actually listening from the start of this, I put this out as a business podcast myself on my own podcast channel, and you would have had a lot of female operators at the start of this. We had like Wendy Slattery from the Beauty Buddy and Denise Inspired, who was a very successful marketer. And since we looked at the construction side of things and that started to pick up, we haven't had a good female construction operator on since that. So it was damn time that we got someone on. So we're delighted to have today TV personality, if it's fair to say, and world-class QS and operator, good, strong, solid operator and commercial director of Brifin Homes. Lisa O'Brien, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you for having me. Definitely a pleasure to be on, and we're in really shaky waters and uncertain times, so it's good to have these podcasts so that everyone can really keep connected, to see how everyone is experiencing this and really what's going on. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, God bless technology is all I can say in these times. I mean, we're like, for those who are listening can't see, but those who are watching on the website, like, this is coming exclusive from the kitchen table, you know what I mean? So I'm thankful we can do this.
I'm laughing because I'm saying I'm back where I started, at the kitchen table. How things have now come full circle,
It's crazy. It is a crazy time, but I mean, thankfully we're obviously doing a little bit of business in the UK, a little bit of business in Australia, a little bit of business in the States, and we're blessed in a way that what I do, which is very different, of course, what you're doing, which we want to talk about, is I can still continue to communicate with these people no matter where they are, which is I'm really thankful for. I can't start anything without asking, how are you doing personally? How are you getting through this, I suppose?
Look, I suppose let's bypass the whole construction issue. There's people out there that are dying, and there's families that are not being able to properly bury their loved ones. Do you know what I mean? So you have to, in perspective, I'm doing really well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My family is well, all my friends are well, so that's all I can ask for on a daily basis. And keeping very grounded. I'm trying to really stay away from media as such, because you can get quite anxious and the anxiety sets in when you're listening to the numbers and the amount of people that are getting sick, etc. So I am just staying in the moment and trying to stay in the moment, and all I can do is control my little environment. So that's how I'm dealing with it on a personal basis, to be honest with you.
I'm pretty similar myself. The first week I couldn't do anything but keep checking the news of what's going on, and probably after week one I just knocked that in the head and I said, you know what, I'll check in on numbers, that's an important stat. Outside of that, I just can't. I can only control what I can control, and I think that's the way to go about it. I mean,
as well, like behind every number, it's a person.
Yeah.
So it could get a little bit impersonal when you're looking at stats and numbers, and Tony Hoolan is out there giving statistics and percentages, but behind those they're people's lives,
Yeah.
So that's why, in relation to, we all have a responsibility to stay in and stay safe for other people, for the frontliners, for the medical staff, and for the people in society that are actually more vulnerable than us. So that's why I think at the minute people are getting a bit, excuse me language, pissed off staying at home. We've bank holiday upon bank holiday rolling up, and you can get a bit ticked off. But at the end of the day, you're doing your bit by staying at home.
No,
So
absolutely. My brother-in-law and his wife are both frontline. He's in the ICU, so we're getting to hear what's going on there. And when I hear people talk about problems, and I hear people talking about getting annoyed, I wish they could just do a half an hour call with them and understand how frustrated their kids are on complete lock. Their kids can't leave that house because they don't want to be, a danger to others and what they're going through. They can't even go into a weekly shop, and some people are complaining about the queue in the weekly shop. So perspective is huge on this. I mean, we could talk about that for half an hour, Lisa, but I suppose you've got a lot more to offer in terms of your construction brain. I mean, you've been kicking around this industry since you were 19, I think. Why construction? Why quantity surveying? Where did that start?
Okay, so I did a talk recently for the Citizens Assembly in relation to women in the minorities and women in male-dominated industries, and that really brought me back. You know, at 18, I didn't know what a quantity surveyor was at 18. You know what I mean? That wasn't my agenda. Back then, I knew I was one of those kids that ran the roads. I played soccer, I rode ponies. I wasn't destined for a desk job, put it that way. I wanted to be out and about. I wanted freedom. I wanted just to be out. So when I sat down to fill out my CAO form, I went through a process of elimination. So I marked out all the courses that wouldn't get me out and about. So I was left with construction, engineering, landscaping, those types of courses where I knew that in my head, my vision back then was I was in a Jeep and the dog was in the back, right? That's how I started off. I succeeded in getting a place in DIT Bolton Street in a construction technology diploma course, which gave me a really broad view of construction. So it wasn't just quantity surveying. We did structures, surveying, estimation, tendering, construction law. So I developed a huge passion. I was so grateful that actually I got into that course and I enjoyed it. Now, I was the only female. I was the only female student in my first year. There was 45 guys and myself, and I had just come from an all-girls convent school, right? So it was a culture shock, but I thrived. I actually thrived in college. I have to say it was the best time of my life, and I met the best friends there, which were all lads, but like they're still my core group of friends and colleagues, and my peers and my networking connections as well. So
has there been much change since then, Lisa? Do you feel? Like, do you think it's getting more female domination now? Or I think
as an industry we could do more. I think we could promote it more. Definitely, I do think having room to improve actually did an awful lot for the profession of quantity surveying and putting it out there, because when I told someone I was a quantity surveyor, they used to think that I was that person at the side of the road with a theodolite. You know, when they heard surveying, they didn't really understand that it was more about cost and contract. I do think we could probably do more to entice females in. It was a great career choice for me. It's a tough industry, Ciaran, you know that yourself. Definitely not for the faint-hearted. But it's been very rewarding for me. It's given me huge freedom, and I feel very blessed on a daily basis that I get up and I actually love what I do.
Yeah,
so
it is, and it is a very tough industry, and tougher than a lot of people outside can imagine. There's a lot of moving parts, but you decided to make it a little bit tougher on yourself then again and open up your own business to add to it.
I'll tell you how that happened. Naivety, ignorance, arrogance at 26. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That was the concoction.
I mean, my thing there is that there's no bad time to start a good business, right? So a lot of people now, and I'm involved in a lot of businesses in general, startup scene here with Enterprise Ireland around, and there's a lot of talk about, you know, what innovation is going to spin out of this. A lot of that talk going on. And my thing is that there isn't a bad time to start a good business, but you're going into a recession, and one of the worst recessions, I suppose, we've ever seen in construction. I mean, was there a thought at the time to say, or even a year in, you said that this was a bad move, or how did you get it off the ground, I suppose, is where I'm getting.
All right, I'll tell you exactly right. So basically, when we came out of college, we were all headhunted. There was no getting your CV together. Literally, the big lads came in and plucked us out of classes. So we all had interviews literally straight away, and we all had job offers, I'd say the whole class within 2 to 3 weeks after your exams. Everyone was placed. Some lads went to America and went traveling and did their year out. But the majority of us that kept in contact, we were all placed within a couple of weeks. I then went on to do a year in Healy Kelly, who are now Healy Turner Townsend. And I knew that was a PQS firm, and I knew, no, this is not for me. I wanted to be out in sight. I wanted the wellies on and to be mucking around, basically. So I did a year there, which was brilliant experience, from professional stance and pulling together bills of quantities and learning how to write letters and little simple things like that you need as a skill. And then I went and got a job as a site clerk. And I literally was thrown in the deep end with a property development company called Heritage Properties. And I'm afraid to even put this on camera and out there, but back then in the day, there wasn't as big a spin on health and safety as there is now. Times have really changed. But I was driving dumpers around the site, ordering blocks, getting in touch with materials, getting real. I look back at it now, and it was the best move that I ever made, because I got very aware with construction techniques, technologies, estimating, sorting out the lads, and I was on big jobs in Dublin city centre. I proceeded on then to move on I was promoted up to junior site foreperson, and then Crampton's came knocking, which we were a big outfit at the time. And I went into Crampton's as a quantity surveyor, went back at night and finished so I did the 3 years diploma course full time, and then I went back at night to finish my degree. So Crampton's site was on 2 sites coming up tandemly together, combined value probably circa around 90 million, and I was the only surveyor. And I'd say 400 men on site. Again, amazing experience. And I thought to myself, I went off traveling then for a year. I came back. When I came back, I started with Walsh Maguire O'Shea. Walsh Maguire at the time as a project manager stroke quantity surveyor in developments. So we were buying sites and developing them. And basically I thought to myself, all the subcontractors they didn't have quantity surveyors, so they were leaving money on the table. Let's just put it that way, right? So in my little brain, I was saying to myself, I could make him money, I could make him money, I could make him money, and I could get a percentage of that. And that's where it started. I went back and did a postgrad in conservation restoration in Trinity, and hopefully no one from the revenue is watching. I started Ciaran, because I was doing that course, and that's I contacted all those subcontractors and said, lads, I can make his money. So I left.
All ears, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, but what that did was gave me an automatic customer base.
Yeah.
Right. So I literally had 15 to 20 subcontractors on my books very quickly. Obviously, I was in the box room at home, set up properly, got myself registered, got myself professional indemnity insurance, and it literally took off. So we weren't in recession at that time. It was early 2006. It was probably 2007 when really the recession hit. But at that time, I had my fingers in a lot of pies, right? Yeah. Because I had the subcontractor base, I'd spread out to main contracting, and then I was also developing a PQS practice as well. So I had a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, and all I can say is that's how I actually treaded through the last recession, was because I had a very wide customer base over a lot of areas. And so there was always there was a dispute going on, so I was in that. There was an estimation going on, so I was in that. And I was literally the yes person. I never said no.
Yeah.
So that's how it was.
And you touched on the room to improve thing there. I mean, did that come from that? I mean, what year did that kick off?
Room to Improve was 2000. We were coming out of recession. It was probably 2016, was it? Yeah, when I did Room to Improve, and at that point we were definitely on the up. And I had like I didn't a lot of people's impressions. I didn't jump at the chance to Room to Improve. I actually, they came knocking, they rang me, I interviewed, but at the time I had an awful lot of work in IBM at the time, and I had commitments there. So it wasn't something that I actually jumped at the chance to be on TV. Like that was never, that was not my agenda to be this personality or celebrity. And I mean, I could have stayed on the show and went down that route, but that's not what I wanted, you know.
How did you find it? What was the experience like?
All right, when I was in it, again, excuse my language, I shit myself. Come on, I was catapulted onto national TV overnight. I was being recognised when I was in my local centre. So that end of things was slightly uncomfortable for me because I am quite a private person. I look back in reflection on it now, and I thoroughly enjoyed the filming process. But also behind the scenes, like the 1 hour that you see on a Sunday night, there's 6 to 8 to 10 months behind that. So it's huge. And basically it took over a huge amount of my time that pulled me out of the practice. So my practice was suffering in a sense because because you're on national TV, it was more scrutinizing the finances because the budgets were so tight. They were unbelievably tight. Do you know what I mean? So, and it makes good TV that they're that tight, and the drama that involves in that, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't regret it. I have to say it was a great experience. But there's an element of I had to get back to the real, reality.
The reality, yeah. I mean, what is your? I mean, talk about budgets being tight. We're about to enter a period now where everyone's budget's about to take a squeeze. What's your biggest takeaway from dealing with projects like that when you get into that sort of really tight cost environment?
Okay, so I went, listen, like, you know me now, we've been dealing with each other over the last couple of months. I don't suffer fools gladly. I say it as it is because budget is Bible, right? If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. I would say anyone going into a project, it's a great time now at the minute because there is, people on downtime, is to get your ducks in a row. If there is a budget, you're designing to a budget. The amount of times that I have clients come into the office with planning permission drawings that they've proceeded to go down 6 months, 7 months of a planning process. They give me the drawings. There's nowhere they've never done a budget analysis on the actual design, and they can't afford it. They cannot. Like, I literally fold the page in half and go, you can actually afford this end of your house, and it is soul destroying. So your architect is advisable to get a quantity. If you can't afford a quantity surveyor throughout the life cycle of that job, your best investment is to get them at the very concept start of the job, very, very, because we can do cost plans. Like, and what Dermot used to give me initially to do a cost plan up was just literally a hand sketch, very simple. I went out, I did my own analysis on the house and the existing structure, and I was able to give him cost plans turned around very quickly. That was in between 5 and 6% of what the contract sums are coming in at. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So get your ducks in a row and get costs early on the table, not when it's down the line, or not when you have a contractor appointed on board and then it rolls into a dispute,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Before we press go on this, I was just thinking to myself, so when did we actually meet the last time? Because I remember we were sitting and we were chatting, we were talking about making a plan, and then we had a phase 1 plan, and then we were talking about September, and that would be a phase 2 plan where we start to get accounts involved. All these plans were on the table, and I just checked the date back to see. I wonder, was it start of March? Was it middle of March? It was Friday the 13th, Lisa. Was the day we met? All right, Friday the 13th of March when we met. So that's going to tell you what's happened here. Something's gone major wrong since that. I mean, all joking aside, what's the impact of this, do you feel, now on your projects?
Okay, so basically, how just before we had preempted the lockdown around 2 weeks before, because you have to understand the COVID-19 or coronavirus has no border. So we were looking at China and we were looking at Italy because that was our evidence, right? And we could see the steps the government were taking behind the scenes in relation to get legislation into the Dáil and stuff like that, to get that passed. So we kind of took the view is we're preparing for the worst. We'll expect the best, but we're preparing for the worst. So we went into most of our building sites and we changed tact in the sense where we shifted from completing the internals to concentrating on external works, right? So getting block work completed, external render completed, right, dropping scaffold and securing the site. We stopped ordering materials so that we wouldn't have materials sitting on site if there was a lockdown.
Because that's been, sorry to jump in on that one, Lisa, because that's been some of the criticism I'm hearing is that like we can't just shut a site down, and on the back end of that, you can't just open a site back up. Like there needs to be a ramp down and a ramp up period. I mean,
yeah, and I think that really, like, I mean, I think it was Friday, was it the 27th of March, when literally it was like, right, you're closing down from 12 o'clock tonight. Now, luckily, we had taken the steps that the majority of our sites were secure and we had weathered in. So we were able to, we got windows in, we were able to lock up. But we still had heavy plant on site. We still, we mixers and bits and pieces like that, we had to get off. They had to be secured. We had to go in and check scaffold and tie scaffold down and get ladders off. So we had to organise crews over that Saturday and Sunday to come in and secure the site. Going forward now, it like you say, we have a lot of subcontractors that would have foreign workers that have gone home. How are they going to get back into the country? When they do get back into the country, we're assuming that there's going to be 2 weeks of an isolation period. So you're not driving. You can't open a floodgate and expect full capacity now. Yeah. We're also looking at we'll get into the CIF standard operation procedures. We've gone through them in depth. Very practical document, common sense approach, right, which is great to see. Everyone needs to get on board with this. However, it's very difficult to social distance on a building site because the majority of tasks are two-man tasks. They just are, right? Our building sites are small. We probably less than 50 men on site. The units that we're building houses between 6 and 16 units. We had already started where there was one trade per house. Electricians go in, that's all. Plumbers could go in. So that's going to massively affect our program because instead of having subbies in tandem, they're now at the end of each other's phased work. So that's pushing our deadlines out.
So what happens there, Lisa? Just on that point there, is a huge discussion point now is going to be, right? So you and your subcontractors, we have to avoid with these social distancing. It's the only way we can do it. But his contract is massively affected by that, and yours is too. I mean, how do you feel that we could resolve that issue first of all? Because that's going to be massive. I think
what's going to happen is, right, we're all in this. This is my personal opinion. Yep. It's not even a professional opinion because that's another podcast in itself.
Yeah.
Because we are bound by standard forms of contract. But my personal opinion, and I'm always very much a solution orientated person, we're all in the same boat. We all are going to have to feel a bit of pain. That's main contractor, subcontractor and client. I think that a fair and reasonable approach has to be brought to the table by everyone, to be honest with you. So that means we will not be able to hand over on our designated date and our completion date. It's not doable with these restrictions that have been brought in place. So therefore, there's an argument to say that we are open to LADs or liquidated and ascertained damages. However, we would hope that Mr. Developer or client can come to the table and have a fair and reasonable approach and we can all move forward. litigation and legislation, or litigation right now, I don't think is the way forward.
No, definitely not. I mean, and that conversation, I suppose, between yourself and client, I mean, I suppose we're hoping that that feeds right the way down as well
Yeah,
into the subbies, because it's usually the subby is the man that has the least access to cash flow, and he's the one that will get
yeah,
crippled, and one that will go first, and we don't want to see that. I know from the little business that we do in the UK that there's major pressure being put on the subcontract already. From a contract point of view, I really hope that the approach you're saying, and to
yeah.
be
But
able,
Mr. Main, I think Mr. Main, you're nothing without your a good main contractor is nothing without a good, reliable supply chain.
yeah,
And so you have to look after your subcontractors, and that has always been my ethos and my agenda within Brifin Homes as well. We're not a main contractor without them. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
like, we're trying to look after them, but on the flip of that, Mr. Subcontractor has to also come to the table, and be able to. We're not able to give him now. We be proceeding on a phase by phase basis. We're not able to give him 16 units where he can just tear into. So that's not going to happen.
So you were saying there, Lisa, that you've read through the standard operating procedures document, and we have as well. And my opinion is pretty much the same as yours. Very, very well written, practical, and they're doing what they can. How are you now going about implementing that and making plans for getting back to site? 'Cause it looks like we are going to get back in some way over the next few weeks. I mean, what are you doing to sort of take the information in
Yeah.
that document and bring that into practicality?
All right. So really, the what we have done at the minute is we've a health and safety advisor. She's absolutely brilliant. Shout out to Mary Mooney, brilliant. So Mary has revised their construction stage health and safety document. To bring in a coronavirus policy within that. That's been sent out to all our subcontractors. We've 11 staff, so all of us have done the COVID-19 compliance officer training. Yeah. So we've that complete. We've all done our digital induction cards on the CIF website. We've that complete. We had, as I said, we had preempted this. So an awful lot of the practical procedures have already been set up on site. Okay, so we had our entrances had our sanitation stations at it. We'd hot water and soap at most of the entrances. We'd staggered break times. We'd taken chairs and tables out of the canteens. We had already established that. So that's just going to go back into that. We'd already done toolbox talks with all our subcontractors, so we will do all that again. So subcontractors now have been given a notification that we need their RAMs, so their risk assessments and method statements, back to us with COVID-19 policy in place in that. So they're all in the background working on that. I've already got a lot of them back in. So as soon as the sites are open, again, it will be more toolbox talks. Hygiene is a big one, and just really keeping an eye on it. You know what I mean? There's not much else. But what I do say is that we can't toolbox talk common sense into people that come onto the site. Everyone has their own role to do, and I've seen it myself. So subcontractors have to filter down to that personnel. We're going to have a zero tolerance care onto this. Yeah. So if lads aren't rocking up to the plate, they're out of here. They're off. We just can't have it. It's a deadly virus, and we don't want people bringing it home, and we don't want it in on the site. It could wipe the whole site out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. The last thing we need is word of clusters starting to appear on sites, and we have a second surge, and that's the last thing we need. Yeah. I mean, how do you feel then that the communications being between, say, government, say, down to CIF, who are definitely doing their bit, how do you feel the communications being between when we might get it back and preparing to get back to work?
I think the CIF have been doing everything in their power to show the government that the industry can get back to work in a safe manner. And that's why they have gone down and proceeded to issue these SOPs. I do feel, like you said, that it's not going to be a floodgate and we all run into sites. So every site is different. There's massive sites in town that have, up to 200 workers on them or whatever. So these guys are going to need the opportunity to probably go in before the lockdown to set up their sites. It's going to be is going to be quite difficult. You're looking at them recommending that, you know, in guys driving to work on their own, or maximum 2 people in a car. So you're going to have a lot more traffic.
Yeah.
That won't suit us. Our sites are infill sites in highly densely residential areas. So if we're influxing now with another 20 or 30 cars, it doesn't suit. So we're going to have to go in and manage our sites where the lads can park. In some cases, park in on site. We've another site where we've secured parking up the road, and they'll have to walk down to the site, but we can get the cars in. So there has to be some sort of timeline that we can gear up and put these procedures in place so that we can all get back to work safely. Like, what I will say is, coronavirus isn't going anywhere in the short term. We have to work alongside it. And get the economy up and running again. Like, I mean, we've approximately 150,000 people that work in construction. So it is essential that we get back to some sort of work to keep their economy going, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. There's absolutely no doubt. There's a huge challenge ahead of us. You've navigated through a bit of a downturn before and a bit of a sticky time. I mean, what advice could you give to other companies that are listening to this that are sort of planning for an uncertain time?
I feel this time round, it's so fun. Not that I'm laughing, but I'm kind of saying to myself, here I am in this situation again. Do you know what I mean? That like I've going through 2 recessions in less than 10 years, so to speak. On a personal basis, I mean, you know, what we're doing, I don't know if I have any advice, because everyone's businesses are at different stages and they're also employing different levels of staff. What Brifin are doing at the minute, we're a small company. We employ 11 staff. We're also going into a health crisis. So we have to cross-train now, because at some point, one of us may get sick. So, I mean, we're in a position where I'm able to step into the accounts role or payroll, or I am very closely tying in with the contacts that I have in recruitment agencies to see what temporary staff are available should we need it, right? So that's one of the things we're doing. We're looking at it's great. It has been a great opportunity in the last 6 weeks to actually sit and look at our finances and see where we're hemorrhaging money, because we were in a very fast momentum prior to the lockdown. So it's given us the opportunity to tighten our expenditure up, seeing what outstanding monies that are out there to get it into the company, and just sit and see what's going on. Innovation, like yourself, I have to say, working remotely has worked quite well for us. We have an office. Personally, I'm a single parent, and I might have my child at home until September, God only knows. So I have to work around that. So working remotely has worked well. We've all actually been very productive. Zoom calls, those type of platforms have worked really well for us. We can actually share information in the meeting. So that has been fine. So I think that's something that we will be keeping this going. Like I said, there's all speculation going out there. I'm not convinced that we're in the same environment as we were 10 years ago, because we had a very unstable banking structure back then. We also have, I have to say, credit to the banks and all of that in relation to, they were very quick to response. We had set up overdraft facilities just in case we needed them, and there is definitely a proactive and positive response from our banks and all of that. So definitely everything that we could have availed of, we have availed of, and credit to our government as well, because they got the COVID-19 payment scheme very quickly up and running, where we were getting refunds back within a couple of days as well, which has allowed us to keep our staff in full pay right now. So that's what I'm saying. So I think, like we said from the very start, we can't control this. You take stock to where you are, you do your SWOT analysis in relation to your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I do notice as well, in every crisis, there's opportunity.
Absolutely.
So it's about thinking outside the box and looking at other services or other avenues that you can go down as well to generate income.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It sounds like you're on this, Lisa. It sounds like you've got a hold of it and certainly have a plan for it. I've no doubt that you will be fine and navigate your way through it. Thanks for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And
Thank you very much. And hopefully you're staying safe and that we can get back to some sort of normality quite soon,
Yeah, we'll definitely arrange a catch up, and it definitely won't be on a Friday the 13th anyway. We'll try and avoid that. Lisa, thanks for your time.
No problem. Thanks, Ciaran.
Cheers.